If you had ever passed through Bodeke village and asked, who was the man God had blessed here? The answer would come faster than you expected. It was Mr. Johnson Okafor. He was not just doing well, he was shining like a lantern in the middle of darkness. He had a good job in the city and a fine car that always made children chase behind him shouting, "Uncle, please buy us biscuits," and a beautiful wife called Clara, who was both his friend and backbone. Together, they had two lovely children, David and Anita, who scattered toys everywhere. But what made Johnson stand out was not only that he was rich, it was that he refused to eat alone. He believed that wealth without sharing was like soup without salt. So when many men in the city pretended to know their village again, Johnson's heart was always in Obodeke. He didn't just take care of his immediate family, he stretched his hand far. His only brother Sunday was never left behind. When Sunday wanted to go to school, Johnson paid the school fees without complaints. When Sunday wanted to start a small business, Johnson gave him money and even added extra for transport. And their mother, Mama Grace, Johnson treated her like a queen. Every month without fail, she received her allowance. He built her a new zinc roof house in the village and sent her foodstuffs every 3 months. Neighbors used to shake their heads and say, "Ah, this Johnson is carrying his whole family on his back. May his legs not break." Oh. But Johnson never listened. He believed that family was not a burden, it was a blessing. If you had visited his house in those days, you would think life had signed a permanent contract with him. From Monday to Sunday, there was not a single day that the man looked worried, and his face was always fresh. Johnson was the kind of man who woke up with Thanksgiving. Each morning, before he even brushed his teeth, he would gather his family in the living room and thank God for blessing him both physically and emotionally. He started as a salary earner, but his mind was bigger than just waiting for month-end alerts. He had the business mindset and was eager to leave that state of 9 to 5. He got to work and he took his savings seriously. The day he bought his first piece of land, Clara laughed and said, "Ah, my husband, who told you to go and buy land in an undeveloped area? In fact, in a bush." But Johnson just smiled. "My dear, what looks like a bush today will become a city tomorrow. One day, you and our children will thank me." He was right. Within 3 years, the land he bought for a small amount of money was now worth 4 times the price. He used the profit to buy another land and then another. Before long, he was known among his friends as landlord. From there, he built a block of flats in the town. It was not easy, but each block that rose from the ground made him proud. The day tenants carried in their furniture and paid rent, he told Clara, "From today, our children's school fees will never stress us again." He didn't stop there. He bought a shop in a busy corner and stocked it with provisions for his wife. To everyone's surprise, Clara's shop became the most trusted in the neighborhood. Mothers came there to buy foodstuffs. Children rushed there for biscuits, and even men would buy small gin and sit outside to gist. Every evening, Clara came home with lots of money, smiling proudly. Even in the village, Johnson planted his seeds. He bought acres of land and planted cocoa and palm trees. His brother Sunday laughed and said, "But you like suffering, no? You will be dead before these trees start bearing fruits." But Johnson answered calmly, "It is not for me alone, it is for my children and their children. One day they will remember their father." In the city, the comfort was evident. David and Anita went to the best school. They never missed excursions. Clara also could walk into any market and buy the best without bargaining too much. Indeed, life was as sweet as honey, so sweet that even the bees in the village seemed to envy him. But behind every sweetness, trouble always waits for its turn. Among all the people Johnson was helping, the one who enjoyed it the most was his only brother Sunday. From childhood, Sunday had always leaned on Johnson. If Johnson got shoes, Sunday would wear them after. If Johnson ate rice, Sunday would lick the plates. And when Johnson finally made it in life, Sunday became the #1 person who was stretching his hand for help. At first, Johnson didn't mind. He believed that blood was thicker than water. Anytime Sunday came visiting, Johnson would put transport money in his pocket and even load a sack of rice in the bus. One Sunday's wife gave birth. Johnson bought baby clothes, diapers, and even paid for the hospital bills. One Sunday's rent was due. Johnson quietly handled it, but soon Johnson began to notice a strange shadow in his brother's eyes. Sunday was smiling with his mouth, but his eyes were always measuring everything in his house. One day, Johnson told Clara, "My brother is beginning to look at me somehow. Let me do something big for him before envy settles in his heart." So Johnson went ahead and bought a piece of land for him in the village. He handed the papers to Sunday and said, "Bro, this is yours now. Build whatever you want on it, even if it's a small house. At least your children will always have where to call home." Sunday knelt down dramatically thanking Johnson. He even rolled on the floor and said, "My brother, God will bless you. Nobody in this world has a heart like yours." Neighbor who saw the land gift clapped their hands and said, "Hey, who does this kind of thing again? Johnson is truly a good man." But the same night, Sunday shook his head and complained bitterly. "Tell me, is this how brothers behave? Must my own piece of land be inside the village where goats and chickens are fighting while most of his properties are in the city where money is multiplying? Does he even think my destiny is smaller than his own? I think this Johnson is trying to cage me, but it won't work. Lie." From that day, Sunday's heart was no longer clean. He still collected Johnson's money with smiles, but inside him he began to keep malice with his own brother. And Johnson, though generous, did not yet know that the very brother he was lifting was slowly digging a hole behind him. Their mother all of a sudden took ill. Before long, the once strong woman was now struggling just to sit upright. When Johnson heard that Mama was sick, he didn't waste a second. He rushed down to the village, carried her himself, and took her straight to a big hospital in the city. Clara, his wife, stood by his side, and together they made sure Mama was admitted into a private ward. Doctors ran tests. Nurses checked her blood pressure every hour, and medicine was flowing like water. Every evening, Johnson would sit by her bed, holding her hand, saying, "Mama, you will not die now. You will live to enjoy the fruits of your labor. I still have so many plans for you." But Mama only smiled faintly. Sometimes she would squeeze his hand and say, "My son, you have done more than enough. You bought me good clothes and made sure I ate healthy. You gave me allowance every month. You built a new house for me and you even carried me from the village to a city hospital. What else do I want from life?" Johnson would shake his head quickly. "No, Mama, don't talk like that. You will still dance at Anita's wedding and you will still carry David's children on your lap." But one quiet evening after the nurse left the room, Mama's voice dropped to a whisper. She looked at her two sons and said, "My children, I have enjoyed life. Instead of staying here in pain, I prefer to go home and rest." Those words struck the air like thunder, but Johnson quickly rebuked her. "Mama, don't say that. Don't invite death with your mouth. You will live. Mama, you will." His voice shook as if by talking louder he would force life to remain in her. But Mama Grace only sighed, a deep sigh that seemed to come from her soul. She turned her tired eyes from Johnson to Sunday and back again, and her lips curved into the faintest smile. "My son, you have tried. A tree that gives shade does not complain when people gather under it. You have done what no child had done for a mother. But I'm tired. Let me go and rest." Johnson burst into tears, falling on his knees by the hospital bed. "Mama, please, don't say that again. Think of us, your children, and think of your grandchildren." Mama Grace stretched her trembling hand and placed it on Johnson's head and said, "Take care of them." The room fell into a heavy silence, as though even the hospital warriors were listening. The beeping machines continued their steady sound, but in that moment, everyone knew that Mama had released herself, and it was as if death itself had been standing outside the door waiting for permission. Johnson froze. For a long moment, he couldn't move. His phone almost dropped from his hands, but he could only whisper, "So Mama is gone, just like that?" He wept like a small boy who had lost his way in the market. He had spent money. He had hired the best daughters. He had prayed without ceasing, yet Mama chose her rest over life. While Johnson was drowning in grief, Sunday stood quietly by the corner. His face wore the marks of sorrow, but deep inside his heart had already begun its calculations. Now that Mama is gone, what will happen to the house, the land, and the inheritance? The burial was yet to come, but already the seed of trouble had been planted. Johnson on his part made up his mind on one thing. If my mother lived like a queen, she would not be buried like a beggar. He planned everything like it was a festival. He hired undertakers who danced with a casket on their shoulders. He brought canopies, rented chairs, hired caterers to cook different foods, and drinks flowed like a river. Everyone had more than enough. The villagers had never seen anything like it before. Some said, this is not a burial, this is a carnival. Even elders nodded their heads, saying, Johnson is truly a son because of the way he honored his mother. When Mama's body was brought out, women broke into songs. Tears mixed with smiles as people celebrated a woman who lived very well, and Johnson stood there, not counting the money he had spent, but proud that his mother was being laid to rest with dignity. From the priest's sermons to the speeches, every word was pointing at Johnson. We thank God for a son like Mr. Johnson Okafor, who did not abandon his mother. You are an example to the young generation. May your children honor you the same way you honored your mother. People clapped. Clara sat by his side, glowing with pride. Even little David and Anita were proud of their father. But while the spotlight shone brightly on Johnson, Sunday sat in one corner, his heart burning like hot pepper soup. He watched how people hailed Johnson, how no one even mentioned his name, and he was bitter. So, am I now invisible? He asked. Am I not also Mama's son? Must everything be Johnson, Johnson, and Johnson? He grumbled under his breath. Instead of appreciating his brother, envy grew inside him like weeds in the rainy season. To make matter worse, after the burial, relatives began to bring family problems to Johnson. They made requests for school fees, requests for business support, and requests for food. Not one person even bothered to ask Sunday for anything. One man even said loudly, "If you have any problem in this family, just go to Johnson because he is the pillar." That statement broke Sunday's spirit completely. In his heart, he felt useless, overshadowed, and forgotten. From that day, his smile for Johnson was only in the public. Behind his back, he began to plot. Then, one Black Friday, everything changed. Johnson was going on a trip with his wife, Clara, and the two children, David and Anita. They laughed inside the car, playing gospel music and talking about what they would do when they return. Johnson had promised to stop at a popular spot along the highway to buy something for the children, but just a few kilometers before the next town, tragedy struck. A trailer carrying cement lost control, and in one terrible moment, it ran into Johnson's car. By the time rescuers arrived, it was too late. The accident claimed Johnson and Clara, but David and Anita were safe. When the news reached the village, wailing filled the air. Women were seen crying while men shook their heads in disbelief. How can a whole Johnson and his wife die just like that? But God, why? When the message reached Sunday, his reaction was different. Inside his heart, he said, "Good for them. So all his shining light has ended in one day." He thought the whole world belonged to him. Let's see who we call his name now. Yet, in front of people, he played his role very well. He beat his chest, rolled on the ground, and cried louder than anyone else. "My brother Johnson, who will I run to now? Who will help me again?" His tears looked real, but in his heart, He was secretly smiling, and as the burial plans began, Sunday was already thinking, now, the house, the land, the shops, the plantations, and everything will fall into my hands. Finally, I'll be the one people will look up to. When his brother's body was to be lowered, he almost jumped inside the grave crying, ah, my brother, why did you leave me? Who will I call my brother and my helper? Villagers held him back. Some patted his shoulders, saying, take heart, Sunday, you will live long and continue from where Johnson stopped. That single sentence sank into his mind like sweet wine. From that moment, he decided he must truly continue from where Johnson stopped, but not in kindness, but in greed. For the entire week after the funeral, Sunday kept his marks on. He visited Johnson's house, sat with Clara's relatives, acted humble, and even gave speeches about protecting the children's future. He called David and Anita, placed them on his lap, and said in public, don't worry, your uncle is here for you. I will take care of you like my own. People were relieved, believing that at least the children have Sunday. But the moment 7 days passed after the burial, the monster inside him finally came alive. He woke up one morning, stood in front of Johnson's house, and smiled wickedly. So, this is all mine now. The cars, the land, the shops, even the house itself. Let us see how those children will enjoy luxury when their father didn't allow me to shine. The same Sunday who was rolling on the ground during the burial now began whispering to relatives, I am the only surviving brother. By tradition, everything belongs to me. Those children can't inherit anything because they are still small. If I don't step in, outsiders will take over. In less than 2 weeks, his money clothes turned into a garment of pride. The love he had displayed in public vanished, and his true colors began to show. And just like that, the orphan's nightmare began. Sunday arrived at the house one evening with a face hard as stone. The children, David and Anita, were sitting quietly in the sitting room, their eyes still swollen from crying for their parents. Clara's relatives had left that morning, so the house felt empty. Sunday walked in, cleared his throat, and announced, from today, this house is mine. Your father is gone and your mother is gone. You two are too small to handle anything, so I'll be taking over. David looked up at him with innocent eyes. Uncle, but Papa said this house is for us. Sunday cut him off with a loud hiss. Keep quiet. What do children know about land and properties? Even goats know more than you. Let me make it simple for you. I am giving you 3 options. He raised 3 fingers dramatically like a school teacher setting exam questions. Option 1, go to hell. Option 2, go and live under the bridge and start begging like those other children you see there. After all, you are no better than them. And option 3, carry yourselves to your maternal home. Thank God your mother's people were still alive. Let them train you since they loved us so much. The children looked at each other. Of course they were still small, but they had sense enough to know that only one option made any sense. Anita whispered, David, let's go to mommy's people. Maybe they will help us. David nodded. Yes, at least we won't beg on the streets. And that was how the children of the great Johnson Okafor, the man who once fed many mouths, carried their small bags and left their father's house. They didn't even take much, just a few clothes and a framed picture of their parents. But Sunday felt no pity. He locked the house behind them, jingled the keys in his pocket, and muttered under his breath, Let them go. From today, I am the new landlord. The next day, he moved his wife and children in, and before sunset, the once peaceful house was already filled with noise, laughter, and the sound of pots banging in the kitchen. Worst of all, Johnson's sitting room, where he once prayed with his family every morning, suddenly became a drinking parlor. Sunday did not waste time. The The first thing he did was to search every drawer, every wardrobe, and every hidden box in his brother's bedroom. It was during his scavenger hunt that he found the documents, land agreements, property deeds, bank papers, and even the receipts of Johnson's plantation in the village. Sunday's eyes lit up like someone who had just discovered gold. He spread the papers on the bed, rubbed his hands together, and whispered, "Oh, finally! My season of suffering has ended. All these are mine now." From that day, he walked around the compound with the keys jingling in his pockets and the documents tucked under his pillow. He would even wake up at night, open the envelope, count the papers again, and smile in the dark. He did not stop at documents. He entered Johnson's wardrobe, pulled out his brother's fine shirt and suits, and began to wear them. At first, he was afraid. Each time he wore Johnson's clothes, he would look at himself in the mirror and mutter, "I hope his ghost will not come and drag me tonight though." But when nothing happened, his boldness grew. Soon he was wearing Johnson's shoes and Johnson's wristwatch. With his new wealth, Sunday's real character began to show. He started inviting girls from the next town, even with his wife around. They came dressed in flashy skirts and high heels, giggling and chewing gum loudly. They would sit in Johnson's sitting room, cross their legs on the center table, and drink his wine as if they owned the house. Sometimes, Sunday would even bring a band of friends. They would sit all night drinking beer, playing loud music, and laughing so hard that neighbors shook their heads in pity. Because of this, his wife left with his children, but he didn't care. In his mind, he had finally arrived and he can get as many wives as he wants. But it didn't take long before strange things began to happen. One Friday night, he brought in two girls. They sat in the living room chewing gum loudly and waiting for Sunday to bring drinks. But just as he stepped into the kitchen, they began to scream. "What is it?" Sunday shouted, rushing back. The girls pointed at the corridor, their hands shaking. "We saw someone, a tall man standing there in white." Sunday's heart skipped. He turned quickly, but there was nothing. He tried to laugh it off. You girls." But the girls were already picking their handbags. "Uncle, we are not staying home." That man we saw was not smiling at all, and before Sunday could say another word, they dashed out of the house like goats escaping slaughter, and then never came back. Another evening, Sunday himself was watching TV in the sitting room, his legs stretched on the center table, when suddenly, "Pooah!" a pot fell inside the kitchen. He jumped up. "Who is there?" He stormed into the kitchen, but the place was empty. The pot was on the floor. From that day, it became normal. Sometimes it was plates breaking, other times the door slamming and the chair shifting without anyone touching it. It was as if the house itself was angry. One night, while in the living room, he heard footsteps upstairs. He jumped up, climbed the stairs slowly, asking who was there. He saw nobody, but he felt a cold wind brush past him, strong enough that made his skin rise in goosebumps. He ran down so fast that he almost fell. Every time he wore his late brother's clothes, he could feel heat on his back, as if someone's eyes were boring into him. Sometimes in the mirror, he thought he saw Johnson standing behind him. Soon, he began to whisper to himself, "Maybe my brother has refused to rest, and maybe he wants his children back in this house." But instead of repentance, Sunday tried to cover his fear with more drinking, more women, and more noise. Yet, the strange events only grew worse, and soon he started dreaming. He would see Johnson standing far away, staring at him without saying a word. He would wake up sweating and his heart pounding, and yet he waved it off with dreams and nothing. But then, he dreamt that he was in a village square, and suddenly his late mother, Mama Grace, appeared holding a long cane. She looked at him with fire in her eyes and shouted, "Sunday, return what does not belong to you, or join me in the grave." Before he could answer, she flogged him. The sound of the cane echoed like thunder. Pia! Pia! He woke up screaming, only to see red marks on his back, as if someone had truly beaten him. Another night, he dreamed that Johnson walked into the house but didn't talk. He only entered the bedroom, took the property documents from under Sunday's pillow and walked away. When Sunday tried to run after him, the door opened and swallowed him up into darkness. He woke up shaking like a leaf and drenched in sweat. For the first time, he was afraid to go back to sleep. The most terrifying came 3 nights later. He dreamt again of Mama Grace, his mother, but this time she was standing with Johnson and her voice was like thunder. Sunday, you are very wicked. You took your only brother's sweat and you kicked his children out when you were supposed to be their father now. My friend, return everything or you will join us. She lifted the cane again and before Sunday could beg, she flogged him till he fell to the ground. He woke up crying like a baby and his body was covered with fresh marks. From that day, his boldness disappeared. He could no longer sleep on Johnson's bed and he stopped wearing his clothes. He finally bowed. He located the children, returned all he had stolen, packed his bags, left the city house and returned to the village looking like a shadow of himself. David and Anita started living in their father's house again, but this time with Auntie Esther who took care of them. She cooked for them, washed their clothes, took them to school and comforted them whenever they cried about their parents. And though she had dreams of her own, she put them on hold so she could raise her sister's children. People used to tell her, Esther, don't kill yourself, oh. These children are not yours. But she will reply them, they are my blood, and if I don't stand for them, who will? She became their guardian, their protector, and she managed the tenants, took care of the plantation and made sure the children's inheritance was never touched wrongly again. Every decision she made was for David and Anita. She refused suitors who complained about carrying her sister's children as her burden, and truly, years later, her sacrifice did not go in vain. David and Anita became strong, educated, and full of gratitude. Hey, African Tales by Camel Tribe, how are you all doing? For me, I am doing just fine. So tell me, did you learn anything from the story? If yes, let me get to read from you in the comments. Before I leave today, I would like to say this. Sometimes in life, tragedy exposes the true heart of people around us. This story teaches us that even when you are good, envy can still rise, but it also shows that God never abandons the children of the righteous. So dear parents, I want you to remember that whatever you sow in life, be it good or bad, will speak for your children even when you are gone. Johnson sowed kindness, sacrifice and investment, and those seeds protected his children even in his absence. And their uncles, aunties or relatives who might be tempted to oppress orphans, kindly note that whatever you snatch with greed will never give you peace. Never. Not in this life and not in the life to come. Kindly give the story a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to this channel, I beg in the name of God to punch on that subscribe button so that you can join the Camel Tribe. Until I bring another interesting story your way, it's a goodbye from here. And God bless you.